I'm Dr. Virgil Troy, and this is the Barleyman Gladiator Diet. And today, to follow on from yesterday's video, I'm going to tell you exactly what I eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks as well. That allowed me to lose 22 pounds, that's 10 kilos, in just 8 weeks. Coming up next. Okay, so first up I'm going to talk about what I eat for breakfast. Now there's a couple of provisions here I just need to mention first up. First of all, what I'm eating is nothing new. Well, when I say nothing new, it might be new now, but nothing new in terms of the body of research and the experts that have come before that have actually come up with the concept of a whole food plant-based eating program. So full credit to those that I've highlighted in the comments section below. If you want sources of information about this type of eating, then I would strongly recommend that you look at some of the movies that I've highlighted, and of course the authors and the groundbreaking researchers in this field of nutrition. So the other thing that I will mention is that this is a diet that has no animal products, no processed foods. It has no dairy, of course, being an animal product, no added salt, no oil, and no alcohol. And it's pretty much the way in which I've eaten for the last 8 weeks that has given me this type of result, which I was not able to achieve before. And prior to this, I was pretty much whole food plant-based, but I added a lot of foods that I have excluded this time around. So if I don't mention it, it's because I haven't added it. And each of these 3 meals and the snacks that I've talked about, you can do with a variation to the thing. The other thing too is all about portion sizes. Now, I'm 185 centimeters tall, currently weigh about 82 kg. So these are portion sizes that have worked well for me. You may need to scale these down or maybe scale them up or whatever. But it's the ingredients and it's the sheer lack of fat that is going to result in you dropping your weight and getting your health back. So let's have a look at breakfast. So what I do every morning is I prepare this about 8 days in advance. So I get together a whole batch of it. I have some containers and I make up a batch of this. So all I have to do in the morning is go into the cupboard, pull it out, open it up, stick it in the bowl and add fruit. So each morning I have a cup of whole grain oats, not that powdered stuff, not the instant cereal, but the whole grain oats. I also have a 1/4 cup of steely cut oats and a 1/4 cup of buckwheat. To that, I add a tablespoon of ground flax and chia seeds. So that's a mix that's been ground. I also add in a 1/4 teaspoon of powdered ginger. And I also add a 1/4 teaspoon of powdered turmeric. So that is my base. And all I do each morning is I'll add fruit to it. Typically, I always add a banana, but it's whatever is in season. So you don't have to make this really expensive. You can get whatever's in season. So if berries are in season, you use berries. And typically my container that I would eat, I call it a container, it's a bowl, but that can weigh anywhere from 500 to 600 grams. So it's about 500-600 grams or half a kilo or more of food that I eat every morning, and that will get me right the way through until about 11:30, 12 o'clock, and that's when I'll have lunch. If I want a snack in between, I just basically grab fruit. So this morning I had kiwi fruit, I had banana and mandarin. Those were the 3 fruits that I've had. Sometimes I'll add apples, sometimes I run out of one particular fruit, so I'll have something else. But that is what I eat every single morning, 7 days a week. And what do I add to it? Water. So you don't add milk, you don't need any made up milk or anything like that. Definitely no dairy, you don't need that poison in your system. But I just add water, cold water, and eat it uncooked. So for me, it's uncooked. If you want to heat it up and cook those ingredients, that's fine as well. But I like it cold, and that's how I eat it. So that is my breakfast. And from there, that gives me 752 calories, which is made up of 137 grams of carbohydrate, only 8 grams of fat. And most of the fat that I have during the day is eaten at breakfast. I have very, very little fatty foods after that. And it gives me 24 grams of protein. Okay, so plenty of protein, and more importantly, 23 grams of fiber in just one meal that gets me through to midday. Okay, so now we move on to lunch. Now what I do, like I mentioned with breakfast, is I'll make an entire week's worth on Sunday. So it takes me about maybe 10 minutes, but I can pretty much sort of reach into the cupboard, grab one, and I'm ready for the morning. I do the same thing with lunch. And what I do is I make up a big barley mix. And this is how I do it. I've got a video on that, so if you have a look in the comment section, I've actually stuck the link up for the video on how to make the barley. But typically my barley will include 2 cups of pearl barley. I can't find hulled barley, I would go with that, but pearl barley it does the job, and I've lost the weight as a result of it. I also add in 1 cup of wheat. I add in a half a cup of couscous and a half a cup of quinoa, and that makes me, once it's cooked, a really, really big container that I and now my family can eat out of throughout the week. And that normally lasts me until, so I make it on Sunday, it lasts me right the way through until Friday. Okay, so there is plenty of it there. And all I do from there is I take between 200 and 300 grams of the cooked barley, and then to that I'll either add a tin of beans. I like butter beans. I also like red kidney beans. I like black beans, and I also like lentils, and I like chickpeas. So I add a tin of 1 tin of that drained. Then I'll normally put on it something like a homemade hummus that I make, which is delicious, and that's with no added oil. What I also add on there is one of my favorites is refried beans, and I did a video on that, and it's delicious. So I just add in a quarter of a can or half a can of refried beans, and I don't do it by portion control. If I'm hungry, I will just eat lots, but typically 250 to 300 grams of the pre-made barley mix, and that will see me through for lunch, and then I get ready for dinner. Okay, so for dinner, normally I'll just repeat exactly what I had for lunch, or some variation of that. So for example, if I might have had a tin of beans for lunch, what I'll do to the barley, which is a little bit less, normally about 200 grams of barley, I'll have some heated microwaved pumpkin, or I'll throw some other kind of vegetable on it. Might be Swiss chard, or which we call silver beet, or anything else, just to basically give it some more variety. One way in which I've started eating, which is really nice, is you take the cold barley out of the fridge and you just zap it, or you can either have it cold or just make it so that it's more room temperature, and then I just add soy sauce onto that, and it tastes exactly the same as if you are eating sushi. And spending a lot of time in Japan, I know what real sushi tastes like, and this stuff is absolutely delicious. So that's another way of doing it. So there's that particular version. Or what I tend to do when I'm going through a hungry phase is I will basically get a kilo of potatoes, that's white potatoes, and I'll just scrub them, and then I'll slice them into wedges, microwave them for about 10 minutes so they're soft, and then I stick them on grease-proof paper with a whole heap of herbs and spices, and then lay them out on that and put them in the oven and just bake them. No oil, okay, no added salt. You can actually get those flavors from the from really, really good spices and really, really good herbs that don't actually jack up your blood pressure because you're taking in unnecessary salt. So I'll have that, and then to that I might add some sliced kumara, or sweet potato. It's the same thing, so just call it kumara over here in New Zealand. So there'll be sliced potato, sweet potato, and then I'll also add in sliced pumpkin or squash. And the good thing is that as long as it's not too thick, you can just slice it without actually having to heat it, stick stick it on the grease-proof tray, put your herbs and spices on it, and whack it in the oven. So then what I do is I take that out, and then I'll put it on this bowl that is just like, or plate that's just absolutely piled up. And then I'll use my homemade hummus. I'll basically get all of the dried herbs and stick them in a bowl that sort of, didn't stick to the wedges. And then I'll use that and the chips to use the hummus and the herbs as like a dip, and then you eat that, and the flavors are just delicious. So whatever flavors or herbs you like, just add it in. So I'll also add nutritional yeast, which is delicious. So I just basically sprinkle that on whenever I'm basically doing a wedge and a dip, etc. And that's pretty much what I'll eat for dinner. So it'll be one or the other. It'll be a big plate of wedges, or it'll be some kind of barley mixture or something like that. And I've pretty much eaten like that for the last 8 weeks. And in 8 weeks, I've lost 22 pounds, that's 10 kilos, and my weight is continuing to drop off. So that's how I eat. That's what I eat in a day. And give it a go. Let me know what you think.